economy. Most of our economy is entirely abstraction. And then there's the idea of a calorie-based economy, which would be like the Amish farming, right? You put in some calories into putting the seeds into the ground, and you receive more calories than you put in, and you've made a, quote, profit. Everything else beyond that is a certain amount of abstraction. So the abstraction layers are starting to fall apart because they're all supported by lines. But the basis of the abstractions at this point are still quasi-functional in the sense that they're providing a flow of power in the sense of the number of people that still take their worthless Federal Reserve notes and contribute to the tax of this, from the state, et cetera. And until that actually shifts, the power elite or the political class that we have won't really be removed. There's very little difference in if you change reality ever so slightly. For instance, a person with $300 million is no better off than an individual without even a pair of underwear sitting in the mud. And that kind of a reality might be something dramatic like a pole shift. At that point, you've got $300 million, but it is absolutely meaningless. The guy who's sitting without any underwear in the mud may be crazy, but he may be much more suited to survival than the person that used to be incredibly wealthy within our power structure. And it's our power structure at an archetype level that we see changing.
Okay.
And the archetypes are very powerful. When we start getting in and seeing body parts and body part references coming up within the what we call the serendipitous mode of our processing, it really gets our attention because those are the most powerful archetypes we've got. And we've got nothing but those in this particular data stream that goes out about 36 months or so, but we're not really trusting it beyond 19. But it's nice to have a broad view and have a look.
You say you are getting a lot of them in there?
Correct. Meaning it's going to be a very powerful time relative to the archetypes that will be worked out. One way to think of it might be that it's going to be a time of perhaps social upheaval as we go through a lot and work out a lot of our collective karma.
Well, you're very kindly and gently trying to say that the merit is going to hit the circulating blades here.
Yes, indeed, and we're all standing right in front of it.
Yeah. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to die is the bottom line here. That's the general consensus. That's not fact and absolute, but that's what the data certainly suggests that we have a great potential to confront here. You mentioned Pakistan. Musharraf, of course, now charged with, I think the word was misappropriating, $700 million of U.S. aid, and God, that's probably the tip of the iceberg. The guy's probably worth a couple of billion. He's being pressured to leave even before the impeachment proceedings begin. So Pakistan is ready to really light off. And they've got 100, who knows, 100 nukes laying around. This is a big issue, and there are, of course, plans, have been plans for years for American special forces to try to go in there and, quote, secure all of them. That's probably not going to happen. What is your data saying in the next 30 days now? We've got this tumult in Georgia. You're looking at something around the 15th, possibly. You don't know Pakistan or not, but something else coming along.
No, 15th and 16th we'd had pretty much penciled in because of the linguistics that are showing up. That we'd pretty much penciled it in for some kind of quote beginning of regime change in Pakistan.
All right. Well, it's due. You're right. And how long ago did that begin to show up in your work?
Maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, something like that.
Well, see,
you'd have to ask George Ure. That's pretty much his job, is to keep track of that kind of stuff, because I'm too buried heads deep in the daily.
That's fascinating, because Musharraf is really hanging by days now, at best guess. And it may turn out to be, what are we, the 12th tomorrow? The next 2-3 days, he's gone.
And it well could be the case, yes.
Absolutely.
And that kind of sets us up for a period of tension. And bear in mind that, okay, we'd previously forecast that we were going to have some rather nasty economic times that were going to level out for approximately 2 months, maybe a week or two more than that, in the middle of summer. And it popped off on July 15th. We've had our economic sort of hiatus or revival or whatever since then. And so that's going to the end of that is going to coincide with a great deal of tension that's going to come back out politically. Which will be the spill-off a month later from whatever kind of, quote, revolution or rebellion begins within Pakistan. And
Pakistan could, in terms of an envelope, include Georgia, couldn't it?
I don't believe that this is direct that way. I think that's another issue entirely. I think that relates to the Iran attack.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the naval strength, the projection. We're going to talk about the economy and this kind of respite we've been having in the downward spiral of the world financial enterprise in just a couple minutes when we come back. All right, let's talk about finances and the world economic crisis. I think you heard Clif mention that their data has been talking about this. Respite is a good word, I guess. I don't know. Brief pause.
I believe so. It's entirely artificial, and it's achieved through the use of pumping in all kinds of emotional and other kinds of energy into the system.
Gold is tumbling, folks. Gold is dropping. I'm amazed. It's down to 807.80. Now, this is exactly what Clif's and George's data has been projecting for how many months?
For the economic stuff, I think we've had it in there since, I told George about it probably December of last year. So we've had it at least since
there
January.
You go. Okay.
Now, the issue, too, is you have to understand this may be a very good and perhaps a last buying opportunity for gold at these prices.
No, that's absolutely true. You guys are both in on this and commodities. Please talk more to that because this is crucial.
Well, I was just going to say I've got this really cool friend of mine who's my dogs are going off in the background, probably raccoon or something. But I've got this really cool friend of mine who's an intuitive astrologer who does numbers. I choose not to do prices because we're doing emotional values weighted to gold. So we know that the emotional value on gold is going to double, but I'm not sure that means the price is going to double because it's a manipulated market.
You bet it is. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
But in any event, this friend of mine, Robert Hitt, who runs AstroEcon, had projected some time back. He and I had a conversation about 5 months ago, maybe, where he said, well, it'll go maybe down as low as 820, and that's the last on the springboard for the first set of doubling, because I had double show up 3 times relative to gold, coming in a relatively short succession.
We talked about this long ago, I think.
Yes.
Early on.
So we're almost there, and by his projection, of course, and many other people, I guess, it's going to go from the about 800 level and would go up to about 1600 in the next stage as we reach the next stage of what we're calling the dollar death. We've had this meme going for at least a year. Meme is a thought pattern or a consistent developing pattern of manifesting circumstances. And the doubling on the gold is actually relative, of course, to dollar destruction, not the other way around. The gold is no more valuable. The dollar is just worth less.
Got it.
And the digidollars make everything ever so much more difficult to track, especially since they're removing things like the M3 and trying to sever any kind of a link to any sort of inflationary data. However, I go out and I do shopping. It's awful hard to hide the inflationary aspect of, the price of milk.
You got to be blind.
Exactly.
First of all, you shouldn't be drinking milk, Clif. It's not good for you.
I'm just bread, yogurt, eggs. It does not matter. Anything, chocolate, newspapers. It does not matter. If it's in that store that you're calling, your local grocery store, its prices are way
we're
up.
looking at 15% minimum inflation.
Oh yeah. I'm actually seeing that because I do a lot of shopping at a local food co-op, and I'm a vegetarian and I eat a lot of legumes and so forth. I see less of it hitting at the lower end of the commodity, but still, any kind of processed foods, you're really starting to pay for it. But the issue is the overall degradation. That is actually an inflationary thing going on, but at the background, there is this huge deflationary wave going on. That deflationary wave is all this money being created, which is handed over to these people, and it's instantly disappeared in all these write-offs. and so it's like a deflationary back wave behind our hyperinflationary front wave, which is going to get, I think, a lot worse in November. A very lot worse, up to the point maybe where we have to institute rationing because the dollar is not able to keep up with the changing level of circumstance.
Agreed. Meanwhile, in further fleshing out of this little respite, this little calm we're in, the eye of the hurricane perhaps, the Dow is sitting at 11,782, went up $48. Everything's just fine, Clif, no problem.
Happy days are here again. Yeah,
oil is down to 113. Gee, gas prices are dropping. Nothing to worry about. Just get that TV on there, and you've got that. Go shopping, and
there you go. Yeah.
No. This is bad, folks. This is not a good indicator. None of it.
And it'll break around the 15th of September and start really going into degradation around the 23rd, 24th. Such that by the time we reach the 7th of October, according to our data, which is a forecast, it's not prophecy, not written in stone or anything, but by the 7th of October, we'll have about 40% of the general sense of anxiety economic concern. The other 40%, unfortunately, will be military. And then we have about 20%, which we call terra intrusion, which may be in the form of a very large storm or something like that going on somewhere on the planet. It's affecting what we call the global population rather than the population of the USA per se.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, we do these charts, which I don't know if they're how valid they are because most of our modeling is done 3D, and so to convert it to a 2D static chart, you lose a lot in translation. But if you were to imagine that you're on the roof of your house and you're working on your gutter and stuff, and you have a ladder there, and you go on over to your ladder to get down, and your ladder is just big enough to have maybe a foot or so sticking up beyond the gutter, that's the angle of the release language that we're going to have starting on the 7th of October running through until January. So when you're looking down, that's the kind of angle we see on our chart.
That's damn steep.
Exactly, to the point where all the rungs start running together, and you can't really pick one out when you're looking down.
It looks like a straight slide rather than a ladder.
And the only way to get down to it is to turn around and feel around with your feet, and you know how risky that can be.
Wow.
So
that's a very interesting mental image. I've been there, you've been there, and probably a lot of you listening.
People have had to get up and do that gutter business.
Yeah, when you look down that ladder and it looks straight down, and you can't see the rungs, and they start looking like it's one solid slide.
Yep.
That's what your graph. I know. I've looked at it. That's what the chart shows. I mean, it's just this incredible. Okay, let me help our listeners. What George and Clif come up with is, and I called it anticipatory language. It's emotional building, is what it is.
Correct.
It's over a period of time, and then there is a point when this emotional building, it's up, and then it takes a different tact and goes down. And he's talking about that down, that release language now, and it is way the hell straight down. So this is no joke. And this is coming October 7th. And when you look at Georgia, when you look at this Musharraf and Pakistan, and then let's look at the Naval Armada. I mean, the largest aggregate of projected naval force in recorded history is gathering in the Persian Gulf.
And guess what? It's been authorized by a bunch of fools and idiots sitting in Congress, and I have to say the fools and idiots include my own Congress people, that are authorizing a blockade against Iran, which if I were Iranian, I would take as a declaration of war.
Absolutely, it's a declaration of war. A blockade is a declaration of war, and these people are not fools.